However, could you give us an example for a situation where social change is happening, and how could we see it from different perspectives? Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jack Chiu from the Chinese University of Hong Kong. I have one question for Yan and one question for Thomas. The question for Yan is, in your mapping for the future, the number one is we should be interdisciplinary. But more specifically, can you mention a few or a couple disciplines that for the field of communication and social change we should pay special attention to? So that's for Yan. And for Thomas, I share the previous question from the female hall, and I'd like to press this question even one step further. Is that in China, one of my friends is a leading blogger, and he has a very quotable sentence a few years ago when we were talking about the national firewall. When some information are allowed, other information are not allowed into China, he had the saying to say, "We don't know what we don't know." How can we start to think about the second order thing that you were thinking about? And I was this is reminding me of the classic discussion in education, the pedagogy of the oppressed. The Pablo Freire is that. We need to start first to think about what's wrong in what we know. Otherwise, we won't be able to know what we do not know. So is that a likely point to start the sequence of social change from within, not from the outside? That's a question for you. Thank you.
Oliver Boyd Barrett from Bowling Green State University, Ohio. I have one question for Jan and one for Thomas. For Jan, I wonder what your perspective is on issues of climate change and whether there is the prospect that really, if we are to take climate change for real, that sort of trumps a lot of the pre-existing priorities in the developmental and communication discourses. For Thomas, and I think there's a connection between my question and some of the previous questions you've got. Is it theories of social change we need to concentrate on, or is it more theories of social constancy? In other words, what remains constant? What remains the same over time? What does that tell us about us? And then we might move from there to theories of social change.
رامز معروف من لبنان. I have a question for Dr. Ahmad. That is your name, sir, مش هيك؟ Ahmad. And one for Dr. Bauer. Dr. Ahmad, how comfortable are you in using terms like friends and real when you are discussing virtual realities? In other words, how applicable is a question to a student who has a friend in virtual reality, whether he thinks that friend is real? In other words, what does these words mean for you as a researcher, friend and real? And if you can explain that to me, and because I don't know what these terms actually mean in a virtual, context. And if you can explain that for me, please, sir. Dr. Bauer, I was inclined to think of all of your approach as some kind of Husserlian phenomenological approach. Am I right to think that? And does that mean that that you think technology is totally human-driven, so to speak, and there's not there is no technological impetus that goes beyond this phenomenological approach? That's my question.
دكتور علي، مع حضرتك دكتورة ثريا البدوي من كلية الإعلام جامعة القاهرة وكلية الاتصال جامعة الشارقة. سؤالي عن الوجود الاجتماعي في المجتمع الافتراضي موجه للأستاذ الدكتور أحمد العموش. أحب أعرف من دكتور أحمد العموش كيف يمكن الفصل بين النيو ميديا والتراديشنال ميديا على مستوى المشاعر والأحاسيس. يعني معروف في العلوم الإحصائية أو في العلوم الاجتماعية إن احنا بنستخدم مقاييس معينة لقياس الاتجاهات أو قياس المشاعر والأحاسيس، فكيف يمكن من خلال هذه الدراسة توجيه أسئلة ذات بدائل واختيارات محددة والوصول بعد كده هو لنتائج تشعرنا بأن الطالب أو الشاب الجامعي لديه قدرة على الشعور بالاستقلالية أو بالأمان. شكرا جزيلا.
شكرا. أعتقد الآن نعود إلى الباحثين ونبدأ بالدكتور جان سيرفياس ومن ثم الدكتور توماس ومن ثم الدكتور أحمد. دكتور جان.
Okay, thank you. I basically got two or three questions, I would say. One is the issue of power. If my understanding of the question is correct, then you expressed some concerns or some doubts about the impact an alternative model could have for the power situation, right? I think that it's a fair kind of statement. If we look at the reality of every day, it's definitely not an environment where we are, so to speak, living in a more equal and more participatory society, democratic society. So there is still a long way to go, but when you look at it from a more theoretical perspective, you can of course distinguish between the different philosophies and approaches which are available from a more alternative power or empowerment kind of perspective. And you will also see that the attention paid to civil society and issues related to civil society, the focus on the so-called new social movements is definitely an element and an example which has upgraded, so to speak, the discussions on power and the possibility of power or the potential of power. Now,